Yeah. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, guys.
Hey, what's up?
It's going. It's going.
I feel that.
You gonna hear us, Jeff?
Hi, Amy.
Amy. She says hi. Yeah, you can always use the chat, everyone. Awesome. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and put one more and get started.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Happy Lunch and Learn Day, everyone. Okay, I'm gonna share this slideshow. All right, can everybody see that? Okay, so a couple Zoom rules. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking. We recommend speaker view for presentation. Video sharing is optional, though we'd love to see all your smiling faces. And please type all questions and comments into the chat because we will have a Q&A. You can also, this is a small enough group, so if you'd like to interact with our guest speaker, directly ask questions, you can unmute yourself. Serena's really cool, and I will be also moderating the chat. So I can read out those questions out loud if you have any. So just let us know. We'd love, this is our time to connect every single week. We'd love to hear from you. So feel free to do that. A quick update from Autism Tree. We now have 387 brand new families who have reached out, filled out our intake form since January 1st. This is definitely a record for us because we're only 6 months into the year. And we're already at 66% or 70% of what we did all of last year for intakes. So welcome to all of our new families. We're so happy you're part of Autism Tree. We do record these lunch and learns every single week and send them out to our community because you know, it's a great way to get to know us and all these amazing guest speakers as part of our community. We offer 19 programs at Autism Tree. For those of you who don't know, 13 are in person, 3 are hybrid, and 3 are virtual. If you're outside of San Diego County, we always welcome you to attend our virtual events. We have 5 upcoming events left in June between now and the end of next week. The events that are happening this week, we have our Project Sunshine. We're so proud to partner with Project Sunshine, which is another national nonprofit. We partner with them for our teleplay workshops, which happen once a month in partnership also with the University of California, Riverside. Yes, Riverside. So that's happening this Saturday, the 24th at 10 a.m. And it's 1 hour. It's teleplay. They're going to be doing Mad Libs, which is super fun. So it's great for ages 5 through 15. It could be a whole range. So definitely join us for that. Our adaptive dance classes, which happen every single week. This week it's ages 11 through 18 on Saturday. That happens every week at noon at Tap Fever Studios in Pacific Beach. We do have a few openings for families who are new. If you want to join, please reach out to our Autism Tree team. We'd love to get you plugged into our dance class. And then, of course, we're really excited to kick off our annual Bridge to the Beach program, which happens every summer. It's our 9th annual Bridge to the Beach Family Day coming up this Sunday, June 25th. And it'll be from 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. We do have so many families signed up that we've already maxed out, and we've got a wait list. We're so excited. It'll have at least 50 families out there, and we pair every family with a volunteer to go do fun family beach day events. So that will be at Santa Clara Recreation Center in Mission Bay. And then we also have another one, a Bridge to the Beach Family Day coming up on August 5th. And then our week-long camp, which happens the week after, which is August 14th through August 18th. So if you have any questions about our Bridge to the Beach program, please feel free to reach out to me. We have 526 of these videos on Autism Tree's YouTube channel. So please subscribe. We upload them every single week. These lunch and learns, like I mentioned, we use as a resource, and we love every single one of these guest speakers. So we now have 121 Lunch and Learns uploaded on our YouTube channel, all on a playlist. It's been an incredible journey that we started these during the pandemic, and we're very grateful to have our 122nd Lunch and Learn guest speaker, Serena De Jesus, today, who is the first autistic female MMA fighter. So I'm going to hand it off to Dana, our co-founder and executive director, to introduce Serena.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's so nice to be here with everyone. I want to wish everyone a really beautiful day today. It's actually the first official day of summer, and it's supposed to be, there's more light in the 24 hours of the first day of summer. So I really hope everyone can think about that, soaking in that extra light that today offers. I know I'm kind of reflecting on that, and sort of have been on, I was telling Serena on the pre-call when I thought about her and the first time I called her, how she showed up. And I've been thinking about that kind of daily, about how people show up in my life. And most of my life, I've always thought about how I show up. And that's always been really important to me. But I sort of have kind of like changed the narrative for myself of like, how are other people showing up for me? How are other people showing up for Autism Tree? And it really blesses me to tell you, each of you that come to the Lunch and Learns all the time, Karen Wright and Jeff Snyder and Rebecca and us as a team, and then everyone who's new or has been coming. The way you show up is really special, and I think that it has everything to do why we're continuing to do Lunch and Learns. We just see the value in it. We see in the value that we get to connect with each other weekly, but also that we continue to grow together and introduce new people like Serena, and also be open to other people that you meet to come in and share their stories and share inspiration that we can all always use. So today it gives me incredible pleasure to have Serena here. I had told Serena when we first met that we actually have a little bit of a background with Dr. Michael Levy, who's the chief of pediatric neurosurgery at Rady Children's and helped us start Autism Tree. He is a cut man to many fighters, and James Toney is a 10-time world heavyweight and helped us do our 5-year gala. And we have video of him at an with MMA fighters and all that stuff when we did our 5-year gala event. Some of you that might have been there would remember how fun it was to have him at the event, how much he worked it. I met John Hickey, who's been with our foundation since 2005, at a boxing club where the manager had a niece with autism, and we did an event at the boxing club that was a casino night and a fight night. And I don't really remember male fighters. I think it was all female fighters like Serena. So organically, we have definitely a heart for MMA and fighters, and have loved when we've ever gotten to do events in that setting. So it's a really big gift to have Serena here. And also, how Serena was referred to me was another fighter named Cami, and Cami came to me, was just glowing about that she wanted me to meet Serena because she was so proud that Serena has autism and is really an advocate and creating huge awareness in the actual communities that she's fighting in. So it was really, it was cool to have this fighter come and say, you have to meet this fighter, Serena, that has autism, and she's amazing. And so with that, Serena, I'm going to pass it over to you and say thank you for making time in your busy schedule to come share your story with us today.
Well, thank you for having me, everybody. So hi, first for intro, my name is Serena De Jesus. 31 years old. I'm a professional mixed martial artist, and yeah, I got diagnosed at 13 after many years of misdiagnosis and going through mental health facilities because I'm a child of the 90s. Child of the 90s, you know, all of us apparently had ADHD back in the day. but then, new diagnosis, new med combos. And unfortunately, when you give somebody who doesn't need psych meds, you unfortunately make them a little nutty. Thought I was already organically nutty enough, but so went through the system, psychiatric facilities, residential treatment facilities, et cetera, until finally I found there was a therapist within one of the institutes I was in, Devereaux. She was like, I want to take her off of all the medicines and observe her for a week. So from ages 4 to 13, I was on medicines for various different diagnoses that just did not stick. So early 2000s, I get diagnosed with autism. My family's like, what's that? And I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is another diagnosis that won't stick. But this one made a lot of sense because my sensory issues, I didn't know were not a thing that everybody else dealt with. I thought somehow I was defective, and that, I was weak and I needed to suck it up and just deal with it. So it's kind of like, oh, it's kind of like when, I guess I wouldn't know, for example, if someone learned they were epileptic, but their new way of life, their new way of living on how to adjust for things. So I had a case manager as soon as I was diagnosed from 13 till I was 21. And, I started working on a lot of life skills. Like I didn't understand sarcasm. I didn't understand like figures of speech. Like if it wasn't happy, angry, or sad, it just flew way over my head. Now I'm probably one of the most sarcastic people you might meet, but that's okay. It comes to the territory with what I do. So what got me into fighting though is I was a lifelong anime and fighting video game fan. And then my dad, when my reward for behaving was getting VHS tapes for anime, he would get mixed martial arts and UFC. So little kid always wanting to grow up and be a hero, despite being in occupational therapy from 9 to about 13, 14 years old, having horrible motor skills. I always wanted to be like these fighters and these heroes I've seen on TV. So after high school ended, I was like, if I just go to college and I work, I'm going to go a little nuts. So I found an MMA gym close to where I lived. I'm originally from Philadelphia, so that's where I got my start. And then my first training, because at first I'm like, I don't want to be a knucklehead fan, because unfortunately there's a lot of uneducated fight fans out there who shout a lot of stupid things. I didn't want to be one of those. And then I started training and I fell in love with it. And for the first time in a while, like I felt calmer with a sense of purpose and everything. And I got to have friends, which is something I really didn't have growing up. Oh, Drexel. Oh my goodness. My mom actually went to Drexel. So yeah, I know Drexel very well. And I had to go to the hospital at the University of Pennsylvania a lot because I have a malformed blood vessel here. I can't catch a break. I'm blind. I got this going on, But yeah, I got my first start there, and fighting really gave me friends, like, because it was an icebreaker versus me walking up to someone on the street or whatever, like, so you like something, and just freeze up, asking about how a technique is going, asking about how something moves. It was a natural icebreaker, and I would just meet friends who they'd see my kind personality, my hard work ethic, and it just had people gravitate. And then I found my mentor, used to fight for the UFC. So for my UFC fans, Roxanne Modafferi. And I went training in Thailand because my training turned to my first grappling tournaments I won, which turned my first Muay Thai fights that took me all the way to Thailand for training. And then finally brought me out here to Las Vegas, which is where I currently live since 2016, where I train and fight out of here. So, and again, it's the same thing. Like, people are shocked they hear that I'm autistic because I don't fit the mold. Like I don't act autistic, or I don't, have those little stereotypes of it all. I still have to work twice as hard to just be as good as everybody else though. They don't see, because I wear these all the time and my glasses go dark. Like I got light and noise sensitivity. They don't see all little things I do to mask myself in public, because I don't want anybody to be distracted looking at me. I don't want to have people looking at me either. And I just want to do my job, which is train, even when I'm all beat up, I just want to train. I want to get better. That is my goal. That is my thing I like to do. And it's gotten me some pretty good spots. Like before COVID, I was actually doing autistic self-defense seminars, because everybody knows that what happens is, unfortunately, the average age of death for autistics can be between 34 and 58. And I'm trying to nullify all that by, spreading how to get out of situations like if you're in a headlock, someone's on top of you and stuff, and how to fight back to either finish or get away from the confrontation. So COVID happened, closed that. So I'm trying to rebuild, that situation, but I'm also trying to keep continuing, my advocacy work, showing that don't judge a book by its cover, because I'm not the only autistic fighter. I'm the first female autistic MMA fighter, but I have a friend across the pond in London. Her name is Chloe Spiteri, 10-time Commonwealth champion in a row for wrestling. So Commonwealth is Wales, Ireland, Scotland, and England all send their representatives, and who's the best in the Commonwealth? Well, it turns out to be my friend who's also autistic and was even a high-level wrestling coach to one of the UFC champions right now, Leon Edwards. So it's a fun life. I love that. And I'm continuing to use my platform as a fighter to continue with my advocacy work, because I decided to come out as autistic publicly before my first fights, because if I don't own it, someone else is going to out me and control the narrative. I'm like, no, I'm not going to have that. I want to control the narrative. I want to tell the world who I am and to shed a better light on autistics and who we really are, because unfortunately the stereotypes are still very prevalent. So it's kind of my story in a nutshell.
I love it. Serena, I also want to touch, you briefly mentioned how you were doing those self-defense classes.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that? And you mentioned a little bit about the statistics, but also, our kids and families, it's really common for our kids to get bullied at school. So is that also the reason why you started doing that? And what age groups were you doing that for?
Okay, so yeah, I got started because for me, I was bullied for a while until, well, I started throwing hands, because my parents always gave me the best advice I think anybody can have in life. Never start a problem, but always finish it. So don't start a fight, but as soon as someone puts your hands on you and you didn't give them permission, their fault. You finish the problem. So what I would be doing is, because I learned that, once you hit a bully, not only they stop because they realize you're no longer harmless fun. And for me, even if I fought bullies and if I lost, they still wouldn't do it because, again, the harmless fun's out the window. So what I would do is I would teach for about an hour and a half, various scenarios, like if someone got you from behind, someone got you in a headlock or a mount, I would teach them how to escape these scenarios and also how to throw strikes of their own. And what happens is I'd pair them up with other autistic students. So my age ranges were from 5 to 17. And I also offered, private lessons to adults who've asked, because I don't want to have all of it, because I want it to be accessible for everybody. So they would all train together and have like those little pop-up tents, that people would have, like parents would sit in for like soccer games or whatever to avoid the sun. I'd have those around. So in case someone needed to take a break, things are becoming overwhelming, I'd let them go pop in. But the best part of it all is seeing these kids who would train together, make friends, just kind of like how I did with everybody. They would make friends. They'd be able to, have fun. And, the parents would all link up and get to know each other and all that. So through fighting, these kids are making bonds just by training. I mean, they're not trained to be fighters. They're trained to be safe. So as for the statistics part of it, which is actually something I got from a friend of mine who is an autistic author in Canada. Her name's Sarah Kerchak. So she's written 2 books already. So check them out. Shameless plug though for my friend. She actually wrote a statistic that the average age of death for autists who have an intellectual disability is about 38. And that's upsetting. So, and for those autists who don't have an intellectual disability, the average age of death is like their mid-50s to late 50s, it's very shocking. It's very scary. So I'm hoping by at least teaching autistics to stay safe, giving them something to enjoy, that I hope to put a dent in that statistic rate.
And I love how organically, they were able to create friendships and create a community. I think that's what we're all
Mhm.
about at Autism Tree. And
Mhm.
why don't you tell us more about the community that you have around you and that you've developed over your time as a fighter in that?
Okay, all right, so the community I have around me is a bunch of fighters, and fighters, everyone thinks they're one, but they all come from various walks of life, religions, races, countries, belief systems, etc. So it really is one giant melting pot. But I'm one of the few people, who have autism within the fight community because they didn't think that that would be possible because of this, again, the stereotypes of poor motor skills, etc. like that. They're not athletic. And so I'm blowing them all out of the water. And just because I work hard, people gravitate to me. Like I'm friends with former UFC bantamweight champion Misha Tate. Um, a lot of other UFC fighters like Andrea Lee, Casey O'Neill and whatnot. I train with her, and a bunch of other wonderful people. And it's a very supportive community because they're very straightforward. It's like you work hard, you ask questions, and for me, it feels safe because there's a set time. I know where classes are, set coaches, set place. So for me, it's great stress relief. And for me, with my sensory stuff, like if I ever get overwhelmed with stuff, I don't get in trouble hitting a bag or sparring another human being about it just to get all my frustrations out. So at the end of the day, like my body could be absolutely sore and beat up like I am currently right now, but my mind is absolutely just calm and zen-like toward the end of it. So I really enjoy fighting for that. Like I've never had such a peace of mind until I discovered fighting, which is the most ironic part, punching each other in the face and throwing each other around, gives me a sense of peace, a sense of, calm and on top of belonging. So I just want to give that to everybody else, if possible.
Yeah. How many fights do you think you've been in at this point in your career?
So my amateur career, I had 9 fights, so 2 amateur Muay Thai fights, 7 amateur MMA fights, and I've had 8 professional fights. Now, if we're including the times that I've had to fight for, against bullies, we have an exponentially higher record. But those are unsanctioned, so they don't count.
I'm going to go ahead and open it up to anybody who wants to ask any questions. And I love that Jeff Snyder was the one who put it in, since people at home can't read the chat. He says his sister went to medical school at Drexel and the Philadelphia connection. Love that. Jeff, do you have anything else you want to share with Serena?
Well, I think and part of the reason why I brought that in is because it reminds me of Rocky Balboa with the Philadelphia connection. But you said you trained at competitions in England. You competed in England and Scotland, correct?
No, that was my friend, Chloe
Oh,
Spiteri.
okay.
She did a Commonwealth game, so that's when it's a wrestling competition where all the places within the UK send all their representatives. They all kind of duke it out to see who's the best of the best. And she is a 10-time consecutive wrestling champion representing England. And she makes such good money that she doesn't have to fight in MMA anymore. Which is kind of the goal. Like I hope to be so well paid and well sought after as a coach that I can make my living that way versus MMA fights. And that's what she did. So she actually was the wrestling coach for Leon Edwards, who is the current champion in his division. So because he needed that wrestling work for Kamaru Usman, who is a wrestling phenom of himself. So she does really well. But so that's why I'm like, I'm not the only autistic fighter. There's me, there's her, there's actually another former MMA fighter who came when I was still in high school, John Doomsday Howard. He was a late diagnosis. He didn't get diagnosed till he was 38. And the only reason he got diagnosed is because we get hit in the head a lot. Older fighters have to get a brain scan, and on top of that, see a therapist to make sure they don't show signs of CTE, or as it was formerly known, dementia pugilistica, which is basically your brain is, you know, a lot of people know what CTE is. It's like what football players, hockey players get. Unfortunately, you know, the brain rots from getting too much hits. And while he was getting in that psych eval, the therapist there was like, hold on, time out, rewind, because he was telling his whole life story. And then the therapist is like, you weren't any of this, you were autistic and you didn't know. And he's just like, so trying to lead the charge a little bit here. He's unfortunately retired now because he's older, you know, and they wouldn't clear him for any more fights. So now I'm taking the charge, I guess.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Amy asked, when is your next fight?
I am hoping in the fall. So unfortunately, you don't really get a set time when you're to fight. So I just came back from, I don't know if you can see this real, I broke my hand in January, pretty nastily. I throw really hard in fights, and you have to always hit with the first two knuckles. That's why they're the biggest. And the girl slipped up the way, and my last two hit, and my pinky bone broke. Not the finger, but in the hand itself. So this is only my 3rd week back of training as of right now. So I've got a lot of rebuilding to do, a lot of rust to shake off. So I'm hoping this fall I fight, and that'll be for Invicta Fighting Championships most likely. And we'll go from there. So I'm excited to get back in it. Like I said earlier, I'm absolutely beat the heck up right now. Yeah, on Monday I trained for 3 hours straight. I've never been in a class that went for 3 hours straight, not even when I was in Thailand training. So yeah, building my way back up slowly but surely.
Awesome. Chip has a question. Go ahead, Chip.
I have a question. Number one, awesome, Serena. I'm a fight fan, and I started when I was young. I started in boxing, and I love boxing because everyone thinks it's a brutal sport. It's an art. Having said that, okay, now I'm watching almost every night because I'm in recovery from back surgery. But what gets me is the thing that you alluded to, the disrespect of some of the athletes towards the loser. And the way I look at it, there's a winner and a loser. Without the winner or the loser, there wouldn't have been a match. Now, it would seem to me that you need to show some form of empathy, but some form of respect, you know, because you won doesn't mean that the other person has no value. That's all.
Fighting is definitely an interesting thing because it is an art, like you said. Like my brothers were professional ballet dancers. The irony, right? So you see the art of the ballet, but you don't see the destruction that happens to their feet in those point shoes. Anybody who's seen a ballet feet, the toes are broken, nail bed split. It's an ugly affair. But within boxing and fighting in general, you see the destruction, but you don't see the art that makes it possible. And fighting is a very unique sport and a little unfortunate in a way. In order to get your own dreams, you have to crush somebody else's. But that's unfortunately the nature of the beast. And, you know, I had some empathy. I felt like that, but it's just, as I've gotten in this sport, I'm like, I have to harden my heart a little bit more. Like these people, especially now I feel in this business of mixed martial arts, it's no longer caring about martial arts. They see the money involved. And unfortunately, with anything involved with money, you know, honor kind of takes a back seat. You know, fighters are being dishonest. Like I've almost lost my left eye from someone like poking my eye like 5 times, you know, because they wouldn't close their hand as you're supposed to in MMA. But they wanted to do that to win. And they were the hometown girl, so they kind of got that advantage, that judge nod. And that was the part where the martial artist in me kind of withered a little bit. Like I'm still respectful to my opponents, but for the 15 to 25 minutes I'm in there with them, they have to understand the person who stepped in the cage is a lot different than the person who's out of it. Because it's funny, I was actually cornering last week in Atlanta for an MMA fight that was on ESPN for Professional Fighters League. And there was a manager of a girl who I'm most likely going to fight in the future saying how tough I was because my last fight, even though I lost, like girl couldn't kill me no matter what she threw. And I'm doing this with a broken hand, my leg crushed by an ATV prior to my fight, you know, all that fun stuff and various other health issues. And he's like, he's speaking in Portuguese because he's Brazilian to his other cornerman is from Brazil. And then that guy's looking at me going like, ¿qué? Because apparently he said, translated from English, that apparently I look adorable and he doesn't think I could fight. And then the guy showed him my videos of me fighting and he's like, it's all bug-eyed looking. I'm like, yeah. So like, for example, Deontay Wilder, bronze bomber. Deontay Wilder outside the cage and Deontay Wilder when he turns to the bronze bomber in the ring are two entirely different people. And that's kind of how I operate nowadays. You know, if people don't like it, fine. Like I don't do anything disrespectful. Like the worst thing I do is I talk to people as I'm fighting them a little bit, but I don't say anything wrong. I'm just saying, bring it. You know, it's like, you know, a little like, is that all you got? You think I'm tired? Like, you know, the plain old, you know, running your mouth a little bit in the middle of a fight just to get a reaction.
Awesome. Any other questions for anyone in the audience?
I have one. Serena,
Yes.
what do you feel like that you could share with someone about what do you actually feel like your challenges are from your autism, and how can you possibly help other parents even who might watch this like understand?
I do have a few. So because of my times in and out of mental health facilities, I didn't really have those chances to make genuine bonds, go through that. Like I'm so aloof still with reading faces and stuff to a degree. Like I can't tell when anybody's in a relationship at all. I don't have a straight dar, a gay dar. I don't have any of that. I can't read it, period. Like if someone's in love, like, and I don't know if people are flirting with me, you know, like if people are trying to like, once it gets past a friendship bond, it all still flies over my head. So we got that going on. We also have, I'm not really an outgoing like I'm outgoing by personality, but I'm very much a homebody. I'm like that rare 20, even my 20s, I was a homebody. I can count on my hand how many times I've gone to a club, for example, and I didn't care for it, you know, stuff like that. So I have very, you know, even though I'm in fighting and everything, I still have very few friends, you know, but they're friends I trust at least. I still have to take copious amounts of CBD to deal with my light and noise sensitivity because, well, I'm not going to walk around using THC all the time because that's not a healthy coping skill to use. And I'm in a lot of physical pain a lot besides, you know, even if you took the fighting away because of like it's overwhelming. And I try to hide when I go into sensory overload. Like my code word to my friends is I have a migraine, because how you treat a sensory overload and how you treat a migraine is pretty much the same thing. Take them out the room, dark room, quiet, same thing. So that's my code word to my friends. Like I have sensory overload about to hit me. It's just like I have a migraine. And thankfully my friends, they all know, they get me out the room, they do what they can, and they help me out a lot. So the limitations for me is because I'm walking both two lines at once, technically. So I'm being a fighter, and people don't know autists are fighters. So when I start having an issue, they think automatically I'm being weak. And fighters are not always known for their understanding. So there's some fighters and there's some coaches, when they find I'm autistic, they don't care. You know, I've had one tell me to get off the mats and stuff. You know, thankfully that guy got fired for being a you know what, but you know, there are still struggles and challenges I have to overcome. Or the best part is because I'm an athlete, they don't think I am autistic. So it's a struggle. So because I'm seemingly well put together, I'm not autistic or not autistic enough. So there's still a bunch of little things I still have to deal with. They're not as severe as me, like, you know, missing social cues or facial recognition and whatnot, but there's still that. And I cannot do open-ended stuff. Like I have to have everything regimented. You can't like, oh yeah, just come over whenever, because I will literally be like, oh my God, what does that mean? I have to have specifics, like, hey, come to my house by 5:30. Okay, now I understand that. Now I don't think I'm being a burden, or I think I'm showing up too early, or I'm overthinking myself to death. So those are my things.
Mhm. And so like on that note, like that's one of the reasons why you gravitate to the fighting, right? It's because like I see it as from like a parent's perspective, as like if my child would be like trying to get into MMA, I'd be so worried about like their physical safety and everything.
My
But
mom was worried about that, but she said out of everything I've tried, it's the happiest and healthiest she's ever seen me. Ironic, isn't it? And my dad has been an RN literally as long as I've been alive, and he's been in every single department except pediatrics. And all he's saying, look at my little girl go beating everybody up. So my dad, who's been an RN, a registered nurse, as long as he's been alive, is okay with it. You know what? I think I'm gonna be fine. And I've already made precautions. Like I get MRIs on my brain to have a baseline to watch out for anything like CTE or anything like that. And if my brain scans come back in the future and show that something's wrong, I'll have to step back, because I serve nobody if my brain is out of sorts. I would, retire if my brain was, not suited for fighting anymore, because at least it could still give back somehow. I can't give back if, for example, I had an old coach who had a friend who said he would call him and then forget why he called him, because the CTE was pretty bad for him. So things I'm trying to avoid.
Mhm. Yeah. Gosh, I had another question. If anybody else has another question, feel free to chime in. John Hickey, I know John's on the call. John, do you want to say anything to Serena?
How does the Zoom thing work? Oh, hi, everybody.
Hey,
Yeah, Serena, good to hear your story again, and a little background that we met Serena. We did a Zoom call with her and a former USD football player who's now a head football coach in Las Vegas about
Mhm.
Serena. Hey.
hey, now I see your face.
That's I'm trying to figure out the Zoom thing. This is all new to me.
It's okay. I'm feeling the same way when my brother was teaching me emulators yesterday. So all
I'm
good.
kidding. I do 3 or 4 of them a day. I started out in my car driving home from another appointment, and so I switched over to my computer. But I had Coach Shane on the phone. He's a USC alumni. He started a mentor program at his high school where he's also a special needs teacher, and he's invited Serena to come not only speak to his team, but coach MMA techniques at his upcoming football camp in July. So I think that's pretty cool that we're not only getting an MMA fighter, but a female with special needs, just representing the whole spectrum of stuff that, girls and is going to show boys how to hit each other. I think it's pretty cool.
Oh, I can't wait for that. I have my pads and everything ready.
Cool. That's good. Yeah, that's going to be fun. I put in for a vacation request so I can come out to Vegas for that one. So
Oh, wow.
coming to Vegas in July.
It's not, look, so far the heat is not as bad as it was last year, because by May we are already hitting triple degrees. We have yet to hit triple degrees so far. So you know what? The El Nino that is around you guys is doing some favors.
Well, today's the first official day of summer, so we'll see how
We'll
long.
see. Yeah, we'll
stays.
see.
July's a long way off, but well, actually,
True.
what are we looking at? 5 weeks away. So yeah,
Yeah.
so it should be fun. But no, I love hearing your story and my personal connection with Autism Tree. The first event that I ever did for Autism Tree was at the boxing company gym in Point Loma. And so this is kind of coming full circle that I got to put on some gloves and do a little sparring, and yes, admittedly get my butt kicked by some females while training. thinking I'm a big guy and I can handle all stuff, and just a couple of girls just knocked me silly and humbled me a little bit. So it's a good thing you're doing, and yeah, I'm looking forward to you teaching and working with not only with football players but the special needs kids at Cimarron. So
Thank
just
you. I can't wait for it.
branching out our autism tree, if you will.
I like it.
Yes, I love everyone in the chat. Emily, who's one of our moms, she says, I'm so impressed. I appreciate your story and ambition and greatness. And Karen says, Serena, you are amazing. And it was so generous.
Thank you, everybody.
Of such a superstar to come and share with all of us. You are a superstar.
Thank you.
I kind of have one last question. If you
Okay.
had any advice to give to maybe, a family out there, their kid, they think their kid would be super into this. What advice would you give to them?
If a kid was super into martial arts, especially if they're a young one, I'd recommend them starting jujitsu. Before, Muay Thai is good too, because a lot of good gyms won't allow them being hit in the head, but jujitsu teaches you something special, because for the uninitiated, jujitsu is, imagine if wrestling and judo had a baby. Because once you hit the ground in wrestling, shoulder blades touch, it's over. But in jujitsu, you can still win. You can still grapple on the floor and offset your bigger, stronger, heavier opponent. And the reason why I recommend jujitsu is you can be the smaller guy, but you can still submit someone with a choke or an arm bar or something where you manipulate someone's joints and make them tap out. Because I know for me, fighting gave me purpose. And that's all I've been looking for in my life, is what is my purpose? What is it what I want to do? Because there were no autistic role models when I was growing up. There was maybe Dr. Temple Grandin, but no one really looks up to, making slaughterhouses more humane, which is what she's known for in her agricultural work. No one really idolizes that, but people idolize athletes, people who do good in their world, who are out there. And I want to be that role model that I never had. But you give autists a sense of purpose, something that gives them life, you're going to see great things. So I recommend, if they're putting their kids into fighting, start with jujitsu first. It teaches them how to grow under pressure, because how are you going to learn fighting somebody who's stronger, who's on top of you, off? You can't just panic, because I learned if you panic in these kind of situations, you get submitted. So it teaches a form of grace under pressure, literally and figuratively, and how to succeed and grow from that. And they'll have the teammates that were just squishing them. 9 times out of 10, they'll be that person like, hey, here's what happened. Let's talk about, let's work. And like I said before, they'll have people who will care for them, people who will chat with them, make them feel like they're important and they belong, which is something growing up as a autistic youth I didn't necessarily have in school. So it's a wonderful thing.
Awesome. Is there any, we do send a recap email to our entire community with the link to the Lunch and Learn and any resources that you might want to share. So if you have anything that you want to share for me to look into and add to that email blast, just let me know. I think the names
of nothing on the top of my head right now, but I watch as soon as this ends, I'll think of something.
Yeah, and remind me which gym that you are fighting out of.
So I train out of Extreme Couture in Las Vegas.
Yes, that's right. So anybody who's in Las Vegas, let us know.
Hit me up.
We'd love to connect you with Serena. It's awesome. Thank you, Serena. Let's do a group picture, everyone, before we leave.
Absolutely.
If you could share your cameras, we'd love to see your faces. Big smiles. Okay. And ready? I'll do a countdown. 3, 2, 1. Cheese. Perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you, Serena, so much for your time.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for having me, everybody.
Take care,
Nice seeing your
guys.
name on there, Emily.